Welcome back to Budget Archive. My name is Mitch, and this is Alice Mill. Now, as we've seen in the competitive scene recently, Watermill Alice has become one of those boogeyman decks where, although it hasn't done super well in a ton of competitions, it has kind of shown up and done well in a few. Of course, most notably, winning CNATs, which is where it really made a name for itself. Now, it isn't a straightforward, you're going to win every game with this deck. You're going to lose to a lot of aggro decks because although you're able to heal a ton of damage, you quite often take a bit to set up to that point of being able to recover as much as you want. On top of that, once you get to level 2, you're going to be taking that 7 damage from playing the first advanced element card for the turn, and it's one of those ones where if you're already at the point where that's going to kill you, there's not much you can do except for hope that you're going to be able to find some of your non-advanced healing cards before you go in and play that. So we've got Spirit of Water, of course, Alice the Sworded Queen. This is one of the key pieces for this deck that although you don't sit on level 1 pretty much ever, you go straight to level 2 after a turn, you do have the on-hit ability of gain Phantasmagoria Mastery and put 2 Horn Cannons on it. Now, Phantasmagoria has a couple abilities, but the one we care about here is that at the beginning of your end phase, you may put all cards from your graveyard on the bottom of your deck, and then put X cards from the top of your deck into your graveyard, where X is number of Horn Cannons on Phantasmagoria. So in this deck, it's generally going to be 2, sometimes 3, as we'll see from a couple cards later on. But that just means that you constantly cycle your graveyard, get more float, although in this deck, we don't actually run any float that's really going to be affected by this, because once you go level 1, a lot of the float gets turned off. And then also being able to just cycle through the deck, put cards back in, play those Dynastic Whirlpools, mill your opponents out, and then get them back into your deck in order to recycle through, especially in the long game, where your opponent is able to recycle their graveyard back into their deck as well. You do need to be able to go through multiple instances of certain cards. We then got level 2 Alice, Phantom Monarchs. This is an inherited effect of when you play your first advanced element card while there are no curse cards in Alice's lineage, deal even unpreventable damage to yourself. Now, it is important to note, it's any time you play an advanced element card with no curse cards in your lineage. So most often than not, you're going to be playing a curse card as one of your first things. In this deck, the main one is, of course, going to be the Umbra Sight, allowing you to draw effectively 2 cards, put this on the bottom of your champion lineage, and then go forth and heal all that damage back immediately. So often this is only going to be dealing 7 damage to you once. However, if you do find yourself in a position where you haven't got a way to put a curse card under your champion, then you're going to end up taking a lot of damage if you are trying to continue playing things without putting a curse card under there first. They got Bauble Abundance. This is one of those Regalia where, of course, it doesn't get played a huge amount in a lot of decks. However, in this one, it is one of those key pieces where you're able to bring it out and force your opponent to draw a card after you've milled their whole deck out. Just giving you that safeguard of not having to worry about them having some way to either shuffle cards into their deck at the beginning of their turn, or even going into a turn where they're able to free cast Resolute Stand in your end step, move into their turn, and then win on that turn because they do skip that first draw phase after that free activation. Chalice of Blood, draw 2 cards, activate after you got 20 more damage counters on it. In this deck, we take a lot of damage, you take a lot of beating, you're able to heal a ton, so being above 20 damage does happen quite often, although we are 22 life, so you're getting a bit close to dying if you're at that point. But because, of course, Alice level 1's lineage release ability of recover 2 plus X for X's amount of cards in Alice's lineage, in the late game, once we've got a couple curse cards under her, as well as all the rest of the lineage, you're going to be recovering 4 or 5 damage with this quite often. So you can bring out something like Chalice of Blood, activate it, draw 2 cards, and then try to play something else to heal down. If your opponent has a response, you're then able to lineage release to recover that life back, meaning that you're not going to really be in a position where you're guaranteed going to die at all. Now, Fine Lantern. Cards and graveyards are norm element. We don't care about our graveyard in terms of the elements in them in this deck. So this is a great thing to be able to slow down those fire aggro, Lorraine, Suzaku's, all those type of decks when they are really relying on the fire cards in their graveyards. Honoric Key. This is another way to get a haunt counter on your Phantasmagoria. Zero cost Regalia. On enter, put the haunt counter on, pay 4, banish it, draw a card in your memory. Effectively, it is a worse off backup charger because it's pay 4, not pay 3. But as we'll see in this deck, you end up with a massive hand quite often, so paying that 4 isn't really a problem. And getting that haunt counter just allows you to cycle through your deck a little bit faster and get into a position where you start finding the cards you've already played from the bottom of your deck going into the late game. Safeguard Amulet, of course, good prevention against spell damage. Terrafring, great against attack-based decks, good way to slow it down. In this deck, your main threats are going to be ally-based decks because you do not have effectively any allies, or no allies that are really going to be able to deal with them easily. So we do run Terrafring, and we also run Ducal Seal, which is effectively the exalted form of Terrafring, being that instead of your opponent paying 2 for every attack, they have to pay 3. You just have to bring this out after you've already gone level 2 Alice, which isn't generally a problem in this deck. We've then got the 2 baubles, Water Resistance Bauble and Fire Resistance Bauble, and then over in the sideboard over here, we've also got Wind Resistance Bauble. So just whatever your local meta is, what do you think you're going to run into more of, put that one into your main board, and then whatever one you think you reverse the least, put that into your sideboard. Moving on to the main board, we've got Angel Attendants. A lot of what the allies in this deck are just ways to draw more cards, prevent some damage to your face, and just slow down your opponents. So of course this is Advanced Imbue 1. As long as it's imbued, it has Intercept, and on death, draw a card. 0-3, effectively a better Library Witch if you've played since early days. Library Witch was always around then. This is what's replaced that a lot of the time, especially in a deck like this where we do run quite a bit of advanced elements. Not only does it replace itself when it dies, but you're going to be stopping 3 damage to face, which is always good. Benediction Angel, 2 cost, Advanced Imbued 2. On enter, if it's imbued, draw a card into your memory and recover 2. Again, recovering 2 damage in this deck, we love to recover. We want to keep our life as low as possible. So being able to recover 2 as well as replace itself is always good. It's a 1-1 ally. Generally in this deck, you're not going to really be attacking this very often. Yeah, getting some chip damage is always good, but you're mainly going to use this to clear things like Windmill Engineers and the likes, where they're just a little bit of a pesky ally that you're able to just trade this off with. Resolute Stand, 2 copies of this in the deck. You could go up to more copies if you wanted. It's just because this deck is so packed as it is with good stuff, you don't have a lot of room, and a lot of the time you want to have more things that allow you to heal rather than prevent damage, because healing is often going to allow you to survive longer in the game rather than just preventing one lot of quick attacks. Now, of course, this is preventing 3 damage from every attack damage that would be done this turn. There are situations where maybe you want to reactivate this, especially if you're versing an mill deck and you've been milled down and haven't had a chance to actually put anything back under the bottom of your deck. But it's not really going to be in effect very much. Generally, you're going to have the influence to play this for 3 from your hand. Rictus Tiding. This is one of those cards that, although we've seen it be played a little bit in the likes of Winterai, it doesn't get played in a lot of decks, but in this deck it's really good. Just allows you to filter through your deck a lot more, get the certain cards that you really want to see into your memory, and then be able to recollect them and then play them out. Also, because there are a couple of 5-drops in this deck, we do find ourselves in situations sometimes where you are able to actually get that double trigger with a 5-drop and 3-drop, getting the 8 and getting both cards into your memory. We then have Delusional Vapors. This is a 3-cost fast speed skill card. So this gets around the likes of Spell Shroud, which is important to note because people are playing a lot of Topsy Decrees these days. We aren't Assassin, of course, so we're not going to get class bonus from here. What the main thing we care about this is target opponent puts the top 8 cards of their deck into their graveyard. In a meta where a lot of people are running Angelic Channelings, this is absolutely insane. You can effectively hold this up, wait for them to go level 3, stack the Angelic Channeling triggers on the top of their deck, and then before they're able to do anything else, just mill all those cards straight into their graveyard. Goodbye. Yes, you wanted those good cards, but you're not going to get them. This is one of those massive swings of momentum that can just change a game so much. And because we aren't running any Regal Inquisitions in this deck, just because of the price point, this is the perfect card to bring in to replace that. Because generally, if you're using a Regal, it's only going to be for about 8-9 mil anyway, especially if you're trying to close out a game with it. So this is just a good thing to bring in and be able to replace it with. Even if you do have the Regals, I'd still say either put these on the sideboard or maybe keep the main board, just because it can be that game changer that you really want to see. Dynastic Whirlpool, of course, this is the main thing that makes this deck work so well. I still don't agree with this that it doesn't target, but it's just so good that I think as the game progresses, this may even end up on the watch list just because it is going to prove to be that type of over pushing card. Because there is no way to actually stop the effect other than counter the card, it is just so hard to get around and not lose to this immediately. The 3 cost slow speed, the only thing that we have going for it, where it is going to allow you to not have to worry about them playing this at fast speed. But each opponent puts the top 15 cards of their deck into the graveyard. In a game where we only run 60 cards in our deck, and quite often going in turn 4 or 5, we've already drawn 15 to 20 cards. All you really need is 2 of these, and then maybe a Delusional Vapors on top of it, and we'll close the game out. And with this deck, with the use of Rictus Tiding, Benedict Angel Attendants, and just all the draw power we have with Umbral Sights, even Umbral Tice, just allowing us to draw so many cards, Dynastic Whirlpool really becomes one of those ones where we're going to see it, and we're probably going to see 2 or 3 of them throughout the game pretty easily. So this is one of those cards where if you see yourself Rictus Tiding, you generally want to take it, unless you're in a real dire situation where you have to take something else. But once your opponent, once you have one of these, or even 2 of these, your opponent's going to be in a real tough situation. Font Seraphim. This is the bane of all ally decks at the moment. It's a 3 cost 1/4 ally that has Advanced Imbued 2, has Taunt itself, and on enter, if it is imbued, until the beginning of your next turn, allies your opponent's control enter the field rested. Not only are you putting a 1/4 Taunter out there, but your opponent also then can't play any more allies to help remove this, and if they do, they're just going to enter the tapped, and they have to wait till the next turn anyway in order to attack with them, just effectively slowing down the ally deck so much. If you're able to play 2 or 3 of these one turn after another, your opponent's ally decks are just going to become useless, as they're not going to be able to get that massive board with constant attacks as they normally would. Frostbind, 2 cost fast speed, negate target activation unless that controller's paid 2. This of course would be replaced with a slightly better counter spell, probably engulfs in this deck. However, for the budget, we're able to fit Frostbinds in. It's a good counter, especially when a lot of decks these days are going hands down to try to do their kills. However, if you are in a position where you have got the budget, definitely go for the engulfs. Pearled Prayer, one of the main recover cards in this deck. 2 cost fast speed, draw a card in your memory. Any card that replaces itself in this deck is just absolutely insane. And on top of it, you're also going to recover 4. If it's during your main phase, you're recovering 7. So quite often you are going to go into your turn, level up to level 2 Alice, play something like an Umbra Sight in order to draw a couple cards, put this under your champion to take the 7 damage from Alice level 2's effect, then go into your main phase, play a Pearl Prayer in the main phase, replace itself, recover that 7 damage straight away, and you're no longer at any risk of probably dying, and quite often you're going to have multiple cards in your hand that allow you to heal. Song of Frost, this is a 2 cost fast speed card. You are not going to be getting the class bonus, of course, Tamer. We are not Tamer. If a unit is attacking in the combat phase, we've seen quite a few of these effects throughout the game now. It's one of those ones where you really do have to be mindful if you're playing into a deck like this, where you're playing a lot of attack cards, because you're quite often going to run into them having something along these lines. There are a range of ones, there's assassin ones, there's this Tamer one, that are all prevalently being played by a lot of decks now. Of course, we don't have a cleric one as such yet, but the Song of Frost being a 2 cost negation is just so strong that you're generally going to want to play this. Spoil and Cleanse, 2 costs fast speed. If your Fracture Memory has 6 or less Shin counters on it, put 2 Shin counters on it, otherwise recover 3. We don't have a Fracture Memory, so we're straight away it's going, we do not have 6 on there, so we cannot put anything on them, so we'll just recover 3 instead. So to recover 3, Floating Memory. This is one of those cards I added to the deck myself because Fracturize was so expensive that I couldn't quite fit it into the budget without making the budget a whole lot more expensive than I wanted to. So if you do have the budget for it, add Fracturizers in over this. I just think it's another great way to have a quick recover 3, in the deck, as well as if you play this on turn 1 after your opponent's already attacked you, you can then bring out Alice using this floating memory before all the floating memories turned off. Abnegation. This is a 2-cost cleric Spectre spell. It does have the Spectre subtype having been added onto it already. They just forgot to print it on the card. Recover 8 plus X, where X is twice the amount of curse cards in your champion's lineage. Now, if we can get 2 Umbra Sights under our champion, having taken 2 damage from each of them, then play this out, we're effectively going to be recovering 12 because of those 2 curse cards. So it's going to replace the damage taken from Umbra Sight to draw that extra card, as well as recover multiple more instances of damage. This is going to be one of the main cards that you're actually able to play multiple times throughout the game to recover a ton of damage. It's also got the Alice bonus of as long as your card of activation has been negated this turn, you may pay it from your graveyard with Ephemerate, which is the 2 cost. As additional cost to activate it, it's going to get banished when it resolves. This doesn't come into effect too often, but it is important to remember it because I have been caught out by it before. It is just kind of insane being able to recover 8, 10, 12 damage, whatever you're going to be recovering with this. Generally 10, because most of the time you're going to have a curse card when you play it. And then be able to quickly tell your opponent that if they do counter it, you're just going to play it again anyway. And if they don't counter it, you cover that life, you go do something else, and maybe they have to counter something else. You're then able to play this again to recover your life fully back. And when you've got 22 life to play with, recovering 10 with this each time you play it, you're able to play 2 of these a turn, you're almost dead, you're going to be back to 0, and your opponent's going to have to restart trying to kill you. Bandersnatch. Bandersnatch is one of those cool cards where you don't see it quite often, but it is kind of cool in this deck. The 5 drop 2/6. Also is taunt, so your opponent's going to have to do a ton of damage to get through this. And whenever it's dealt damage, your champion recovers 3. If they're attacking this with just 2 attack allies, you're going to be effectively recovering 9 just from this being a taunter on the field, which is absolutely insane. The main thing that's going to stop this can be something like a Dream Fury, but if they're playing a Dream Fury out to get rid of this, then they're probably not playing a more powerful creature out on the field dealing more damage to you. Also has the effect of pay 2, sacrifice another ally, Bandersnatch gets +2 and gains cleave until end of turn. If you're able to play this out, activate this ability, kill something like a Benedict Shamble that you've already played in a previous turn, it's just been sitting on the field, not going to lose anything from that, then be able to give this +2 in cleave. You can often attack and just wipe ally boards out off the face of the planet. They're not going to be able to stop you most of the time, and it's going to put you in a great position where you are no longer threatened by the massive board state that they might have been building up throughout the game. Maledictum. Now this is an absolutely insane card in this deck, because if it is in your hand, then you're effectively going to be negating a majority of the 7 damage you would take when you play it, because whenever you put this card in Champion's Lineage, that Champion's card recovers 4. The effect of it is to put it under your Champion's Lineage. However, the main power from this comes from having it in your graveyard. So if you've gone to level 1, done the effect from the Phantasmagoria, this has ended up in your graveyard, I would recommend just leaving it there until you're able to go level 2, because it's got the effect of pay 2, banish another card from your graveyard. You got 2 haunt counters in your Phantasmagoria as you will straight away. You're going to have 2 cards in your graveyard, so you're going to be able to banish one of them. Put this card from your graveyard on the bottom of target champion's lineage. Generally going to be your lineage, of course. So not only are you going to recover 4 when it goes under there, but because you aren't playing this card, as Alice Phantom Monarch says, whenever you play an Advanced Elements card, and there are no curse cards under your lineage, take 7 damage. This is just going to go straight into your lineage. You're not going to take that 7 damage. You're going to recover 4 straight away. And now you've got a curse card under your champion's lineage, allowing you to then go and play Advanced Element cards without ever taking that 7 damage, which can be a huge mental swing, especially when you think about the fact that not taking 7 damage, recovering 4, effectively going plus 11 life for that turn without really costing you anything. Reflective Blight. This is a 1-cost fast activation. Return card from your graveyard to your memory, then put it on the bottom of your champion's lineage. When you do, deal 1 unpreventable damage to your champion for each curse card in your champion's lineage. Not too worried about that. You generally only have 2 or 3, sometimes in the late game, 4 curse cards, so you're not going to be taking too much damage, especially when you think about how much we're healing throughout the game. But being able to return something like a Dynastical Whirlpool to your memory, or even something like a Song of Frost if your opponent's just going for those big attacks and you know that's exactly what they're going to do, It just put you in a great position to be able to recycle cards. And if you're using the Phantasmagoria effect to put cards on the bottom of your deck, put more into the graveyard, and you happen to put something like a Dynastic into your graveyard, this is a great thing to be able to play in your recollection in order to return that to your memory, then recollect and then play it straight away. Umbra Sight, we've already talked about this a little bit. Draw a card fast, speed, 0 cost. You may draw a card into your memory and put it on the bottom of your champion's lineage. When you do, deal 2 unpreventable damage to your champion for each curse card in your champion's lineage. Of course, this is going to be one of the main ones you play outside of Maledictum. When you first go to level 2, effectively giving you that curse card, taking that 7 damage, taking 2 from this being the only curse card there, effectively taking 9 damage, but drawing 2 cards, pretty good, especially when you can heal so much throughout this deck. It's also one of those cards where late game can just help you to cycle through your deck and draw a ton of cards. Umbral Tithe, this has a couple different uses in the deck. The 5 cost fast speed, costs 1 less for each curse card and each champion's lineage. Again, getting into late game, we're going to have 2, 3, 4 curse cards. It's going to end up pretty cheap. Each player draws 2 cards in their memory, then deal 4 damage to each champion controlled by a player with 6 or more cards in their memory. We can play some recollection, draw a couple cards, be able to do a bit of damage to your opponent. Generally not going to come into effect because we don't often deal a lot of damage in this deck, unless we manage to get a Bandersnatch out with a few Benediction Angels, able to deal a ton of attack damage using that, because your opponent's not threatening any attacks. But often, because of the way this deck's built, you're generally going to just be milling your opponent out, and that's going to be how you win. So this is more in terms of you've already milled your opponent out, they've got no cards in their deck, and this is another thing with the likes of Bubble of Abundance, where you're able to force your opponent to then draw those cards in the memory, drawing the effect, meaning that when you have no cards in your deck and you attempt to draw a card, you lose the game. So it's just forcing your opponent to lose right then and there, rather than giving them a chance to bring something out in order to stop them from losing. Moving into the sideboard, of course we've got one Resistance Ball we already talked about. Chime of Endless Dreams. This is one of the main regalia we have to be cautious about when we're playing this deck. If your opponent has it out, they are not going to be able to lose from drawing cards. And this is where Umbral Tithe and Full Abundance and the likes can come into a massive effect. Because if your opponent's got this on the field, they don't lose the game from drawing cards while there are no cards in your deck. You can tap and banish it, shuffle all cards from your graveyard into your deck. Of course, enters hindered. Now, if you're able to mill your opponent out completely during your turn, and you've got Ball of Abundance out, of course, cracking that Ball of Abundance is going to do nothing because they're not going to lose the game. But if your opponent goes to their turn, and they go to try to activate this, part of the effect is banishing it. So they're not going to get to shuffle anything into their deck until this effect resolves. You can then, in response to this, create that Ball of Abundance, try to force them to draw, and they are going to lose the game from that. So there's just a few of those interactions. It's good to keep an eye out for that, just because although it may seem that this is just a hard counter to the mill deck, there are ways around it, and if you play it correctly, your opponent's not going to have a chance. We are playing this, of course, because in the mirror, we don't want to be able to lose from this, forcing us to draw all our cards. And also in a situation where I just mentioned, where your opponent's managed to build your whole deck out, and you want to go put everything in your deck to then keep playing. Yes, you've got the Phantasmagoria ability, but quite often that's not going to be until the end phase anyway, so you're not going to be able to survive through that draw step of drawing the card. So having this to be able to bring out then cause you to not lose is a great thing. Also, in a lot of matchups where maybe you aren't able to cycle your graveyard around a lot just because of possibly banish effects and the likes, being able to bring this out and then be in a situation where if you've played something and you want to get it straight back in your deck before your opponent can interact, being able to banish this and then shuffle that straight in is good. Of course, it does cause your deck to shuffle as well. So if you put 3 or 4 Dynastic Whirlpools on the bottom of your deck already, just being able to shuffle that deck up and have a better chance of drawing them earlier in the game is always great. Void Cloak, one of those weird regalia where it's 0 cost and you have Spell Shield. As a player, you have Spell Shield. The only card that stops is Regal Inquisition, effectively. There are another couple cards, but nothing that really matters too much. Regal's the main one that we're worried about. And this just means that your Dynastic Whirlpool is going to be safe in your hand until they get something like a Fracturize and able to Fracturize this and then be able to play the Regal afterwards. But generally, you're in a position where you've got the Frostbinds, you've got the interaction to stop them from being able to do that. Spout of Departed. 3 cost fast speed, destroy up to target 1 target Fantasia. Don't care about fate bound effects. Level 2 plus costs 1 less. So it's effectively going to be a 2 cost card. Just good against the likes of Fractals, against Razor Gale decks. Just there's quite a few good Fantasia out there at the moment, where it's good to be able to bring something like this in. We then have Morgan's Soul Guide. Now, this is a card that hasn't really been played a lot recently until Alice became a thing. It's a 2 cost 1/3 Cleric Mage Human. We do get the class bonus off this. Level 1, prevent all non-attack damage that will be done to Morgan. Your opponent has to be able to attack it. When you've got enough Taunters in this deck to stop an army, you're generally going to be able to keep this alive for quite a while. Level 2 plus, your opponents can't recover. You're versing into another Alice deck, where they are dealing a ton of damage themselves, playing things out. Having this on the field, stopping them from being able to heal, put you in a position where you could just Bandersnatch in order to kill them. It also has the effect of class bonus at the beginning of your recollection phase. You may glimpse one if you don't recover one. So quite often we do want to search through our deck and get those cards that we really want to play. Being able to glimpse through an extra one each turn is great. But also if we're struggling to find our heal cards, or we're close to dying at the beginning of our turn quite often, being able to recover one is always good as well. Thank you so much for entering the giveaway. Don't forget, if you missed out this time, that I do these quite regularly, so keep checking back and watching the videos. They aren't always as publicized as this one was, so you do have to actually watch the videos in order to possibly enter the giveaways. Today, we have a Diane Wee CSR that's been given away, of course. Great addition to any collection. If you do win, hit me up on Discord, as that's going to be the best place to get in contact with me. Let me know you're the one that's won, and then I'll give you a code in order to enter in the comments down below, and then that will be able to verify that it's actually you that's won before I then ship them to you. Without further ado, our winner is Dean Ward 98B. I think this might be one of my locals now, and you guys just started. Well, congrats to you, mate. Yeah, I don't like just giving stuff to my locals because it looks pretty dodgy, but that's why I do it like this, where I run it live, because I don't want to just give a name on a screen and tell people that that's who won when it isn't actually. But yeah, congrats to you, mate. I'll let you know that you've won, and we'll hopefully keep playing. Moving into the upgrades to this deck. For the Regalia, we've got Backup Charge from Lost Providence. Now, Backup Charger, of course, being able to draw a card in memory, give you a power cell. That power cell can then be either fracturized in order to give you an extra influence each turn, but also being able to use something like a turbocharge in order to draw more cards and gain your influence is always good. Lost Providence, because we are a level 2 advanced element deck, we are able to bring this out a turn earlier than most decks would be able to. And being able to then just draw extra cards is always great. There's not much else with it. It's just a great Regalia to be able to bring out, especially saving you that materialization where something like GCR would cost you. For the main deck, we've got Regal Inquisition, of course, coming at $27. And Golf coming at $9.75 each, and Fracturizer at $6.63. Fracturizer did originally have in this deck list, but it brought the budget up to about an $80 deck, and I didn't really want to push it quite that much. But these other two are fairly pricey when you start talking about playsets, so it is one of those ones that if you aren't sure if you're going to play this type of deck long term, or if you aren't sure quite about putting that much money into the game yet, I'd try out the budget deck first. Regal Inquisition is one of those cards where if you are playing a control advanced element deck, you are always going to be playing at least a couple copies of this. However, if you are wanting to play a bit more of an aggro play style, you're generally not going to be playing anything along these lines, so it may be one of those cards you want to hold off buying for now. Same with Engulf. It's a water card only. It is for advanced element decks mainly, because that's the decks that are going to be going into long game. They're going to be getting this 3 less to activated effect, be able to pay 3 to negate any non-attack card activation, and generally it's going to be one of those ones where you don't want to be in a position where you are having to put a lot of money into a deck that's just going to sit around and not get played for a long time. Fracturize, I would recommend anybody to pick up a place of Fracturizers, no matter what you're playing at the moment, just because they are pretty cheap compared to what they used to be, and they have started to creep back up. And it's one of those cards, if you're ever going to play a water deck, it's probably going to be wanting to be played in that deck. Moving on to our deck breakdown, we've got our Materia deck coming in at $5.97. Main deck coming in at $52.56, and Sideboard coming in at $6.49. So again, it is a little bit over that $50 point that I originally wanted to do my budget decks at, but it is very hard at the moment when a lot of the decent cards for decks are sitting around that $1 to $2 mark. Like this Dynastic Whirlpool, $3.42, still pretty cheap for a card that's getting played in a very high competitive deck at the moment. Font Seraphim, $1.16. Nutty RDO Rare. Most RDO Rares are sitting around that dollar mark. It is really hard when the boxes are so expensive and people are trying to make their money back on those boxes by selling off all the rares at about that dollar mark. Abnegation being $2 each as well, mainly because of this deck. It's just a good card. It's getting played a lot in all these decks, so it started to creep up in price. The champions themselves being $2 each. That's pretty standard for a decent super rare champion, especially since they stopped making them all commons. That's about it in terms of the pricing points of this deck. That's where most of the money comes from. There isn't really too much to get caught out by. Expected Blight being 99 cents each. Again, one of those cards that I think it should be a little bit less, but it's good in this deck. It's good in a couple other Umbra decks, so why not? That brings our total to $65.02. I wanted to get it below the $65 mark, but couldn't quite get there, but it's a pretty good price point for such a competitive deck. And it's a good deck to learn on because you're able to not really worry about having to play the right thing at the right time to attack your opponent and get them dead. You can just sit back and do your gameplay, worry about yourself, be able to play the right recover cards, right times is the main thing when you're trying to play this, and just being able to keep your life total low enough where your opponent's not going to kill you out of nowhere, and then be able to just mill them out. Effectively in a single turn would be best, if not over the course of a couple turns, where your opponent is not able to then come back and kill you prior to you doing that. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and make sure to let me know down below any other decks you'd like to see from me. Until next time, stay safe.